and welcome to another edition of the Next Week Today on St. Thomas-Elgin. I am your host, Kate Burns-Gallagher. We are now joined by our final member of St. Thomas's City Council, Gary Clarke. Welcome to the show, Gary.
Welcome, thanks for having me.
Great. So tell us a little bit about who Gary Clarke is.
Gary Clarke, well, I don't know. I guess if Lou Gehrig was the luckiest man on earth, I'm the second luckiest guy on earth. Born and raised in St. Thomas to Frank and Martell Clarke, who were here their whole lives as well, and brother Dan and Karen as siblings, and married my high school sweetheart. 3 kids and 5 grandkids.
Incredible.
Professionally, I was a teacher, and then a principal, and then superintendent with the London Catholic School Board.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And what made you decide to run for municipal politics?
I think probably my degree was in history, and so teaching history and civics. And back in the 80s, I ran twice successfully with the St. Thomas PUC when I was a teacher, but then became a principal and just got too busy with being a principal. And I coached all those years as well. And so with family life and duties with being principal, I just couldn't follow it up. So when I retired, I thought, I'm going to get back into this, and so I ran for St. Thomas Council, and just a way of giving back. Born and raised here, and love the city, and kind of always dealt with people through the job as a principal, and so I thought I'd give it a try.
Oh, fantastic. So you and Councillor Wookie have a little bit in common there, right?
We do.
I can imagine. That's wonderful. So we ask all of our councillors a couple Pearce questions. So
Sure.
we picked 3 for you.
All right.
And the first is, what is the quality you most like in people?
That question reminds me kind of like Luke Bryant's song, Most People Are Good.
Yes.
Yeah? You like that
Bryant,
song?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what's important for me is that we have such a wonderful volunteer network in St. Thomas. You know, you've got service clubs and church groups on the formal side of things, but just, you know, when a tragedy hits, people pull together and rally around, and it doesn't matter whether times are good or bad. People, you know, jump on a GoFundMe and really support people. And I guess the other characteristic that I admire in people is when they're honest. Mm-hmm. You know, I as a school principal, you know, I hated digging through the he said, she said. I said, you know, you make mistakes, just own up to it and let's move on.
So true, isn't it? Yeah.
So I think it's just refreshing that, you know, like the song says, most people are good and they want to do what's right.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Our second question, when and where were you happiest?
Oh, probably in the hospital when the 3 kids were born.
Oh, yeah.
It was kind of neat. I couldn't go in when the twins were born, but I got to go in with Elaine when Matt was born, and didn't manage not to faint.
That's a strong win.
Yeah, but it was pretty exciting.
Yeah. And over your career, being a teacher, have you had some happy moments there as well?
Yeah, I mean, it was exciting coaching a number of years of success with basketball, and we, you know, won a number of provincial championships, and then just being able to progress from classroom teacher. Then I had, it was a great job where I had lots of opportunities. I started the co-op program at St. Joe's, and then had never been in elementary school, but my first assignment was elementary school principal, and then moving to high school principal. So just different opportunities with the board, and then the superintendent. And then when I retired, I did a 2-year stint in the Cayman Islands out of school. So,
amazing.
That was pretty amazing too. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
Waking up to sunshine every day.
So true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So sunshine and children are your happy places.
Yeah.
I like that. And our last question, what would you consider as your greatest achievement?
Oh, probably family. I think when you're young, I might have picked something else, but you get a little more mature and wiser. And I think just seeing the kids grow up and be successful and have 5 grandkids, and the good family times, and the fact that they're all seem to be happy and doing well.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, grandchildren are the reward for parenting, aren't they?
That's right. That's
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we can't thank you enough for your time today, Gary. We really appreciate you helping us round out the St. Thomas City Council by joining us today.
All right. Thank you.
We'll be right back on Next Week Today in St. Thomas-Elgin.
Hi everyone, my name's Ranger M. I love to knowledge share, and that's just what I'm going to do with you. So come on, let's go learn with Ranger M.
Thank you to all of our volunteers. Whether it's long production days or late nights, we appreciate everything that you do for us in helping put on our productions. Thank you, and happy National Volunteer Week.
I'm just finishing up my 5th year volunteering here with Rogers TV. I've learned all aspects of how to put on a TV show, both in front of the camera and behind, and working with some great volunteers, learning how we do everything in front and behind the camera. To me, being a volunteer is helping giving back to the community and making sure that we put on a quality program for our viewers to watch and being out there and making sure it's done properly. Just get out and volunteer. You'll have a great time. You meet a lot of great people and you'll really enjoy it. And you'll, surprisingly enough, you'll get recognized out in the community for your volunteer work. There's not a day goes by or a week goes by that I don't find somebody says, hey, I recognize you from doing this show or that show. So get out and volunteer. You'll have a great time doing it. And we're always looking for great volunteers, so don't be afraid to get out and help.
We are back on Next Week Today in St. Thomas-Elgin and are joined by Elizabeth Nagy, Event Manager, and Rose Tisdale, Museum Manager of the Elgin County Railway Museum. Welcome to the show, ladies.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we are hot off the heels of the biggest regional announcement, and it happened to be at your location.
It did, yes. Yeah, it was very exciting.
Both the Prime Minister and the Premier, that's pretty incredible to be both in your facility.
Absolutely. We were really pleased to be able to host such an amazing event.
Yeah, it was a big day.
So incredible. Tell us a little bit about the history behind the Elgin County Railway Museum up until this big announcement we just had.
So our building was originally built in 1913, and it was a Michigan Central Railroad locomotive shop. So they did a lot of machine repairs there. And it was that kind of a shop up until the mid-'80s, because there was a lot of transfer between different railway companies and bankruptcy, that kind of thing. But we officially became incorporated as a company as in 1989. And then the building was officially bought in 2010, and it became a museum. And for the longest time, it was solely volunteer run. Up until more recently, we started having summer staff, and we have a more permanent staff as well. And we still do summer opportunities. So it's really grown, and it's still growing.
That's incredible. And what are some experiences that visitors can have when they come to the museum?
So we have 3 different locomotives that you can actually go up inside and take a walk around. One of them has displays inside as well. We have some interactive displays, so like pedals that you can press down and then something happens. It's really great for kids. And we also have what we call our hymn room, which is History in Motion. It's a model train layout of St. Thomas and surrounding areas in the 1950s. And we have volunteers that run the model trains all day when we're open.
The model trains, whenever I take my son, he can sit there for hours and watch the model trains go by.
Yeah.
And you mentioned it's all volunteer run. So how many, or it used to be, how many volunteers are involved with the Railway Museum?
Roughly like 30.
30 very active ones.
Very
yes.
active, a few more that come and go, but yeah.
Incredible. And so May marks the launch of your season opener. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So the season reopening, we're calling it. We're going to be offering discounted admission just to sort of kick off the summer season. We'll have our regular sort of tour programming that we would offer all summer long anyway, but then we've added some additional fun and excitement. So we'll have a obstacle course inflatable that the kids will enjoy. We'll have some concessions, including some food and beverages, and a couple of craft tables and that kind of thing.
Oh, fantastic. And when is the season opener?
So it runs May 27th and May 28th, and both days from 10 until 4.
Great, and everyone welcome. Is there, you mentioned a save on admission?
Yeah, everyone's welcome, and it is a 50% discount.
Off.
Yeah.
Oh, incredible. Now, do you still do it where you can pay for your admission and then pay for a membership for the whole year?
Yes. Yeah, we actually introduced some new things as well. So for years we have had the family membership and the individual membership, which you get to admission year round. But we've also introduced passes as well for individual, family, and deluxe family that have a little bit more benefits than the memberships do, trying to drive some more traffic into our museum. But yeah, we still have them. They're really cool.
Fantastic. And can you tell us a little bit about the collection and what you have as part of the museum?
So our collection is filled with a lot. We have a lot. We have a lot in our collection, and they're all train and locomotive related. So we have a lot of tools. We have a lot of lanterns. We have railway spikes, other obscure items that you wouldn't think of. Some large items as well. Like
lots of paper documents, different manuals and things like that, as well as employee records from, you know, CN even.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the trains.
Yeah.
We have a number of different trains, which are our prize artifacts.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and 5700 is the staple, the statement of the museum, isn't it? And what makes it so special?
Honestly,
this one's on you.
It's the steam era in the railway history is just huge all around. 5700 specifically, unfortunately, doesn't have any direct ties to St. Thomas, but just because of how important the steam era was and how we developed as a community and the world developed, it's a really important part of the history. And also, I think people are drawn to it because of just how big it is. You don't really understand until you're standing right beside it, just the actual size of the locomotive.
So true. It is massive. And huge. If people are looking for more information on the season opener or to come visit, how do they get a hold of you?
So our website has a lot of detail on it. www.ecrm.ca. Our events are all listed there. Information about our artifacts is listed there. Our educational programming, everything. Otherwise, they can give us a call, and our phone number is also on the website.
Wonderful. Well, thanks so much, Rose and Elizabeth. We really appreciate you taking the time to join us today.
Thank you.
Thanks. We'll be right back on Next Week Today in St. Thomas-Elgin.
I started volunteering for Rogers last year in March, I want to say. So I grew up playing sports. I loved hockey growing up. My dad was a really big hockey player, so he got me into it, and I would always watch hockey games and that sort of thing. But I really want to branch out of my comfort zone, and that's what Rogers has also allowed me to do. I've learned to think on my feet really quick, how to kind of put myself out there in ways that I wouldn't before, and just be fearless in terms of that. I would say just go, show up, do it once. If you don't like it, that's okay. You don't have to go again, but you might just absolutely love it. There's so much diversity and variety within that you can try, and you're almost just bound to find something that you're gonna love.
He fell. Whoa, I'm not driving. I'm way too stoned. How are you feeling, Veer?
Oh, since we had that talk, I'm not driving tonight at all.
What about you, Dave?
You only had a couple of drinks.
And only a couple of puffs.
I don't drink and drive. No way I'm getting behind the wheel when I smoked weed, too.
How are we getting home, then?
Oh, you can drive, Dave.
Come on, Dave.
Take one for the team, buddy.
Don't let weed and alcohol influence your decision to drive.
Yeah, I need a ride.
We are back on Next Week Today in St. Thomas-Elgin. In Elgin County, camp is synonymous with Pearce Williams. And here to talk all things camp is the Executive Director of Pearce Williams, Joe Richards. Nice to have you, Joe.
Thank you for having me.
So we are back to camp for 2023.
We are back to camp for 2023. It's a go, it's happening, and there's still space for kids to sign up. So
that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Tell us, what does the camp year look like for 2023 for Pearce Williams?
So for 2023, we have school groups starting in June, so we'll go back to outdoor education begin. We have spring staff on site already who are working away at getting camp ready. And then during the camp, camp starts in July, and we'll have 6 weeks of camp programs for most age kids, and then 1 week for counselors in training who are 15 or finished grade 9 in high school. So we'll have, we'll have a July all ages camp, a junior sports and arts camp, a girls all ages camp, an LIT and a first timers week. So that's for older kids to become leaders in training, and then first timers between 5 and 9 to come and try out camp for 3 days. And that's always the civic holiday week. It starts the Tuesday after the civic holiday. And then we have an August all ages and youth camp, and the summer is done, and then we start planning again for next year.
Incredible.
Yeah.
So 5 to 9 is that first timer.
Yeah, 5 to 9 is the first timer camp, and it is really a chance for them to experience camp in a very short setting. And so it's 3 nights, right? Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, and we just keep them going, so that by the time they get to bed at night, they're so tired they can't think about anything, and we just move through the week. And having the LIT kids there, the older sort of 12 to 15-year-olds, it also gives those kids the chance to see if they want to work in a camp setting in the future, right, or with kids in the future.
Well, that's a really cool combination of the two. And then when I was checking out your camp schedule this year, I noticed there's a family camp too.
There is a family camp. So last year was our first year open since the pandemic, and the family camp we've moved to the end of the summer. And we would love more families to come. We actually canceled family camp last year because only 2 families signed up. One of them being one of our staff families, and so it wasn't really worth running for that. It's a Sunday through a Thursday this year, which is the second last week in August. Okay. And so a family camp, essentially what I say, Kate, is it's a all-inclusive resort minus the alcohol. And then they can, we do programming for the kids in the morning and the afternoon. We do family-styled events in the evening for evening program and campfires each night. So
that sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun. And if parents just want to sit around in their lawn chairs when they're not at sessions, but when we're leading kids program, we're also leading adult programs. So you can go and shoot archery, or you can have adult-only swim, or you can go for a nature walk in the woods, or do the labyrinth.
Wonderful. Now, how long has Pearce Williams been in Elgin?
Pearce Williams has always been in Elgin. So 1960, Pearce Williams started with a few weeks of camp that year. And then they hired their first full-time camp person in 1973. And so it was a minister position at that time, because Pearce Williams is associated with the United Church of Canada. And then in its history, it's had very few full-time camp people. And I've been there since 2005, so I take up a block of space. But yeah, we've been around since 1960. The pool was built in 1963. It owes us nothing. So if you want to fund a new pool, feel free to contact me.
Incredible. I love it. I love it. So it's the same pool that I swam in?
It's the same pool that anybody who was at Pearce Williams has ever swam in. It gets emptied every spring. It gets cleaned, it gets painted, and it gets put back together. And we just hope that the filters work. Yeah. And so I've tried many, many times to fund a new pool, but it's not an inexpensive proposition.
No.
Anywhere from $300,000 to $500,000 for another concrete pool.
Wow.
But memories of swimming in the camp pool, well worth it. So,
camp memories still to this day. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And so Pearce Williams camp is a huge part of it, but there's more, your retreat facility.
There is. So the camp is our mission. That's why we exist, for a children's camp. And then we do year-round retreats. And year-round retreats in camp bring in the same amount of income for us to help fund our programs. And so all of those retreats help fund our summer camp program. And so we do retreats year round. We have beds in the dead of winter. You can sleep 158 people on site now. Wow. And a lot of, since the pandemic started, we've put in a lot more heating and cooling as well due to needing better air circulation for disease prevention or things of that nature. And so there's always things going on, and there's always opportunities to volunteer at camp as well, to do things like gardening or I wish people would just claim a garden bed and take care of one garden bed, because there's so many on site, and also just help around camp. We had a chainsaw day a few weekends ago, and just trying to get the camp ready and looking great for this summer.
That's amazing. So if people want to help with the pool, with the cash, or get a little dirty and choose a garden and own it, how do they get in touch?
The best way to get in touch would be to use our website, campisbetter.com. Life is good, camp is better. And you can reach out directly to me, Joe, at campisbetter.com. And you can just type Pearce Williams into Google, and oddly enough, Pearce Williams often comes up as the first thing.
Wonderful. Well, thanks so much for your time today, Joe.
Not a problem. Thank you.
And we really appreciate it, and have a great summer.
Thank you as well.
Thanks. We'll be right back on Next Week Today in St. Thomas-Elgin.
What had happened to him is nothing short of a tragic story.
I got a call from my friend. He says, yeah, his wife killed him.
She told him, I'll kill this guy if I get him in Brazil.
Suicide is the leading cause of death in people with mild CTE.
I believe that Mr. Gary was murdered by strangulation.
I would never do something like that.
There's nobody gonna tell me my friend killed himself.
Back on Next Week Today in St. Thomas and Elgin. We are joined by the roaster with the mostest, Maria Fios from Streamliners Bar. Welcome to the show, Maria.
Hi, thank you.
So tell us a little bit about the vision behind Streamliners Bar.
Well, when I decided to open Streamliners, really it was about having a place in the community that was going to do more than just simply brew a cup of coffee. You know, I felt there were already enough places in St. Thomas that were brewing coffee. But if I was going to do something, open up a space, I really wanted it to be much more than just brewing a regular cup of coffee. So apart from the obvious that we don't do batch brew, that it has to be everything hand brewed, so a K-mix, a French press, or an espresso, I also wanted it to be a place that really felt like all the things that I love intersect, so coffee, food, art, music, and that has always been the focus behind it. I always say to my staff, we're doing so much more than brewing a cup of coffee.
Right. It's an experience when you walk into Streamliners, isn't it?
I hope so. I mean, that's what I hope. I think there's nothing more beautiful in that human connection when you're doing something for someone else. So in our case, is brewing a cup of coffee for someone. So that is my goal. I hope that every customer that walks in feels that connection. Like, you're not just coming here, I'm just handing you a cup of coffee that I brewed whatever minutes ago, you know. It's about that connection of, hey, how's your day? What do you love about this coffee? What, what's going on in the city? What are you doing this Saturday? I think it's got to be so much more than that.
Yeah, it's like coming home almost.
Yeah, for me it is.
Yeah. And speaking about coming home, how did you make St. Thomas home, or why did you choose St. Thomas?
I think it's one of those lovely, serendipitous things in your life that just happened. My husband and I had been looking for a home for about 2 years around London area. And then he got, he was doing some work here in St. Thomas, and I happened to be kind of, we just had one vehicle at a time, so I would drive from to work, and then it was like, why not St. Thomas, And I had never really thought about it, considering that I had been in London all that time. But then once I started coming in, one time driving by the queso station, really it was that building that kind of stole my heart. I was like, I love the vibe of a smaller community. I come from a very, very small village in Nicaragua. So to me, I just felt, walked into the queso station and this old, beautiful building, and then the whole vibe around the small community in which I immediately felt welcome, even though I didn't, not that I didn't think I would, but you don't expect that. I wasn't expecting St. Thomas to feel like home so quickly. So I felt like it almost chose me, because we were kind of like, yeah, maybe. And then I just, did a couple of drive-bys on Talbot Street and looked at this building, and I could just imagine myself, sort of working in this building. And
wonderful.
Yeah.
And the queso station is home to Las Chicas.
Yeah, to the roastery. So at the queso station, I roast the coffee that we brew at Streamliners.
Amazing. And where do the coffee beans come from?
Everything comes from Nicaragua. Mm-hmm. So I source the coffee directly. So this February, finally, after COVID, I was able to go down home, and I pick every coffee that I bring. I have a great relationship with the coffee growers. We've been working with some of them. We've been working together for over 20 years. And I know their coffee very well, intimately, I say. And I bring their coffee, I roast it, and then it's an honor to be able to brew it at Streamliners, right? I mean, it's hard to explain to people what that feels like, because I feel sometimes we can be so removed from the products that we use in our life every day. But for me, when I'm brewing a Chemex or a French press over at Streamliners, I think, I know the person who grew the coffee, I know their kids, I know their grandpa, I know their farm. Mm-hmm. There's so much about it, and it is truly an honor to be able to have their product and then be able to brew it to people. So,
well, thank you so much for your time today, Maria. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks. And that wraps up our show today on Next Week Today in St. Thomas-Elgin. We look forward to seeing you next time. Take care.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.
The unsolved ones, we have to stand up
and approach these cases in a way outside the box.
Let the world know, is those out there that did commit a murder, there are people that are coming after you.
There's just a lot of good people trying to do the right thing.
Because it's something that you have to be passionate about.
When an impaired driver killed my brother DJ, my life changed forever. During the pandemic, all of our lives changed, and many of us turned to alcohol and